Morning everybody, I'm Simon Avenitsky. I'm the chair of the Railway Challenge Committee that organises the Railway Challenge event. Delighted that so many of you could come today. You're all very welcome. The idea of today is that we're going to talk to you about not any new information really. We're going to run through the rules and some information about scrutineering and the operation on the day and some things like that. And you're welcome to ask any questions. Plenty of time, so you can ask any questions that you want to. We're also hopefully going to have a run around the route because it's quite long and most of you haven't been here before, so you need to have a look at it. We're going to do that on the train, which is going to back into the platform in a minute. You can ride around on that first of all. You can also walk around if you want to and look at anything. I did want to just say one other thing about the structure of the event. So in terms of we have scrutineers and judges. So we have a team of judges led by Malcolm and Bill Reeve, and we have a team of scrutineers led by Tim. And the idea is that the judges are independent of all of the teams. So the people who are on the judging team, they're not associated with any team. Whereas the scrutineers, like me, I'm a scrutineer, I'm actually from the University of Huddersfield, so I have a connection with the Huddersfield team. So the idea is that any team, any participating organisation can nominate a scrutineer and they can take part. Obviously you won't scrutinise your own team, but that's the way it works, whereas the judges are completely independent. Just wanted to explain that. I think that's probably all I wanted to say for now. Tim can add a bit more probably when he arrives on any more detailed rules, and certainly can ask questions about that. So I'll hand over to Tim Poole then for scrutineering.
Hi, my name's Tim and I'm the head scrutineer on the basis that I wrote the tech specs. So I did write the tech specs, so if you do have any questions you can actually ask me what they are. Now, the general rule is it's fairest to do that in writing. That's how we do it. You will get an answer. I think I did one from Huddersfield the other day, because that means we can put the question and the answer on the website so all the other teams can see it. And that really sort of underlines one of the principles of how we're doing this. Most things we do are to keep things fair, to make sure that new teams are not at a disadvantage, and to keep things safe. So that's the three things we try and do. To keep things fair, obviously we do scrutineering. We're quite strict, making sure everyone is playing the same game. We keep a level playing field. We also, to keep things good for new teams, we change the rules. So in other words, if you are a new team this year, you're not competing against locomotives that have been honed over the last 5 years, because we've changed the rules to make sure they can't run deliberately. And we often have new teams winning, so if you are a new team, don't worry about that. And the other thing about new teams is the fact that they have the advantage that all the team members actually know how they work, because they designed it. When people bring old locos along from previous years, they're confronted with a pile of wiring and a pile of drawings which aren't corresponding to the wiring, and actually they're not at an advantage at all. So we do try and keep things fair, we do try and keep things on a level playing field, and we do try and keep things safe. And so those are what we look for during scrutineering. Yes, the scrutineers do all come from teams, so I will not, for example, be scrutinising the Birmingham loco or the TfL loco, because I'm affiliated to those. And similarly we do that, we try and allocate the scrutineers, so you have complete unbias. The tech spec itself, it may appear to be strange or not strange to you, but it should be pointed out, it is based on an actual real loco. Originally this comes from a full-size loco, 4 foot 8.5 loco, and it has obviously been slightly simplified for this, but nevertheless there's nothing in the spec that you wouldn't find in a real specification. So this is an incredibly good learning experience. We haven't put in anything ridiculous or silly. Every single part, every single clause of the tech spec is something you would find on a real loco. The top-down analysis, the bottom-up analysis for safety is exactly what you'd have to do on a real loco. The written submissions that Malcolm will be leading the judging of are exactly what you'd see on a real loco. So there's no things you're doing for this competition that aren't incredibly good for your CV, your knowledge, your experience. That's the crucial thing. So what we do with the scrutineering, there is a timetable, which other people will be doing, which says when you need to be ready. Tim, if he comes, the other Tim will be explaining, if you're not ready for scrutineering and you mess up the dynamic scrutineering as a result, the scheduling of that, there are penalties. So really do make sure you've tested your loco before you come. There's all kinds of clauses which mandate that. So, they're for your benefit, because it's a bit disappointing if you turn up and the loco isn't ready. Now, I know that is a problem in many cases, because obviously the competition, we have to finish the competition before terms end, because obviously lots of students come from overseas. If they've all dispatched over the planet, we've got to have it before that happens. But of course that means the competition is happening really quite close to exams, and we know that that is so tempting to sort of pick up the loco work after that's all done. If you're on a graduate team, please try and find the time just to test the loco before you get it. It's really disappointing if you can't get it to work on scrutineering, because you put a lot of effort into it, and it's really good to do. The scrutineering is put into two parts. So we do part of it up here with the locomotive static, first of all switched off, then switched on. The second part's the dynamic scrutineering, and that's usually managed by someone called Stuart, who's not here today, and that's when we test things like the brake rates and the maximum speeds and that type of thing. If you want to know exactly which clauses we look at in scrutineering, that again is on the website. The scrutineering sheet we'll be using is on the website.
That's a really useful document, the checklist. If you go through that, then you'll know exactly what's going to
try and pass that before you come here, then you'll know you pass. So that's a really good thing to do. So please check that, check your loco passes, all those things. You'll monitor your progress through scrutineering. We put a license on the edge of on the end of the locos, and as you do each one of those colour-coded sections, you can see that Simon's holding up now. Sorry.
I think they're all
You'll get a light green, a dark green, a mid green, a dark red, a light red little segment on your license, which corresponds with all the checklist items on that of that colour. So that's how that works. The other final thing is, do allow yourself time to put the loco together for scrutiny. There's no use unloading it, you had realised it takes actually an hour to put all the bits together. So, I do this every single year. So this is a 10 1/4 inch railway, which is roughly 1 to 5. Bearing in mind, typical loco, which of the configurations you have would weigh about 80 tonnes. How much is your loco going to weigh? If it's 1 to 5, how many times lighter is your loco than 80 tonnes?
They didn't think they were going to get maths questions.
Yes.
125?
Yes. It's going to be 125 times lighter than 80 tonnes. That's actually quite a lot. Okay? That's how it will come out at that weight. That's just 5 times 5 times 5. And therefore you're going to have to bring your loco probably in parts, practice putting it together, because there's no use getting it off the lorry 10 minutes before scrutineering and then realising it takes an hour to assemble the bits, because you had to take it off bogie and the engine and that and that. So really do practice, because the reason I've said a lot of what it is today, there is nothing more disappointing than teams who get here and we think we've got 8 teams running and 5 run because 3 never even got it working. So really do have a practice before you get here. So that's the end of that. Any tech questions?
Take questions at the end, if that's
Take
all right.
questions at the end.
Yeah.
Any other questions on scrutinising?
We'll
look
be
at the
around
list,
afterwards.
get it done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Richard, we'll take a few words from you next, if that's all right.
Yeah, yes, certainly.
Safety and...
Yeah, welcome everybody to the Stapleford Miniature Railway. Just to give you a few of the basic facts, the railway is privately owned. It's owned by Lord Gretton, and it runs on his estate, which is obviously the Stapleford estate. We have a band of volunteers called the Friends of the Stapleford Railway, who actually operate the railway on his behalf. And we actually run it for the IMechE challenge. So all the system is pretty pretty well exactly the same as full size. You've got a control and you've got a signal department, and all the running is controlled through the FSMR, not the IMechE. So if you have problems, you address them to whoever it is on the IMechE team, and they will then get in contact with us. For today, just a few safety factors which you really do need to consider. And although it is fifth full size, most of the hazards on full size are replicated here in one form or another. The first and most important hazard is trip hazards. And you're free to walk wherever you want, but you must be careful of point levers and point motor covers and things like that. So luckily it's dry, so the slip hazard isn't so great today, but do take care where you're walking and look after yourself from that point of view. Moving engines, as Tim said, okay, they're 125th the size of full size, but nevertheless they have quite a bit of inertia. They don't stop on a postage stamp, so just keep well clear of any moving train that's, well, we've only got one train going today. Just make sure that you're well clear of it if you're walking around. As we go round, we'll have a trip round the track. Please be sure to keep your legs and arms inside the coaches at all times for your personal safety. We will be stopping, I guess, on the way round to have a look at various challenge points as well, and things like that. Don't stand up in the coaches. That's about it, I think.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Richard.
Yeah.
So next, Bridget's going to talk to you. Bridget is in charge of the operations on the day, so she's going to explain the sequences and things.
Yeah, thanks Simon, and thanks Richard. And just to emphasise what Richard has already said, his team run the railway. If we want a particular train to go somewhere, and the signals and all the rest of it, I talk to Richard, and his team organises it. So as it says in the guidance for teams, and as Richard has already said, if you have a concern, please raise it with us first of all. If it's something that you think is critically urgent and safety related, then feel free to talk to the volunteers. But anything else, please talk to us. You don't distract a signaller when he's doing his signalling job. That is inappropriate. You don't distract a driver when they're driving. So be careful about the communications lines. It all works pretty well. So having said that, my role with assistance is to organise the logistics. So as you will see, it's quite constrained. We've got 2 tracks here, 1 track behind the fence, 2 over the other side. All of the teams, when they're working on the locos, will be in this area. So there's not a lot of space. And we've already talked about, Tim has very helpfully talked about the weight of your loco, the size of your loco. You need to think very carefully about the safety issues. So particularly, I'll come back to it, loading and unloading is one of the most hazardous things that people do. But logistics first. The process is unloading, static scrutineering, as Tim has said, and nobody can go, no loco can go out on the track until they have passed the static scrutineering. That's an absolute. If there's particular things that aren't quite right, then we'll discuss whether it's appropriate or not. But things like the horn. If the horn doesn't work, if the brakes don't work, you're not going anywhere. So it's absolutely critical that those things work. And then the dynamic scrutineering, as Tim said, is to check the stuff you can't check without moving. And that involves a run round the track, and that is simply to do the dynamic scrutineering. It's not for you to try out anything else. It's just to prove the things that need to be proved for dynamic scrutineering. Until you've passed that, you can't compete in any of the track-based challenges, because clearly it wouldn't be safe until you've got the appropriate approvals. It's just the same as the real railway. Until you've got the appropriate approvals, you can't run. The maintainability challenge and other fixed challenges, we can be a bit more flexible about. But we really want everybody to compete in everything. And then after that, there is an opportunity on the next day usually for everybody to have a practice run. So you get one practice run round the track where you've got an hour, which is not actually that long by the time you've been all the way around, to try things. So you want to be ready for that. You don't want to be doing what some teams have done, which is fine. They haven't passed the dynamic scrutineering because they weren't ready, so they have to use their practice run, waste their practice run, doing the dynamic scrutineering, and then they get no practice at any of the challenges. So you get the practice run, and then there's the full challenge runs. And that is choreographed just like a very complex timetable. It may look like a simple railway, but it's actually quite a complex timetable. And I'll talk you through that and talk your driver, whoever that is, through that on the day. But the important thing to remember is you need to be ready when the timetable says you're going to be ready. Not 5 minutes later, not 15 minutes later, when it says, or 10 minutes before. So we will agree the timetable in advance. We will give you your schedule. There's one from a previous year, schedule of who's doing what, where, when. And if you're not ready, you lose points. That's reliability failure. And it's a real nightmare for me, because if I've got 3 locos lined up on here, the front one's supposed to go first, and it fails, I can't get the other 2 out. So it's not just a problem for you, it's actually a problem for us. And that brings me to another point, which is that you will not always come back to the same place. So when you've been out on any of these runs, your loco will be parked somewhere different when you come back. So any of your tools and kit that you need for working on the loco, you want it to be movable. You can't assume you'll always be on that block there. You won't. You may have to be somewhere else when you come back. You may be undercover, you may not be undercover. Gazebos are wonderful. The number of gazebos on this site is quite interesting. So that's the basic plan in outline. And the other thing I was going to point out was loading and unloading, which is actually about the most dangerous thing that you do. Because, as you will have worked out, it's between half a tonne and a tonne, the weight of the loco. So you need to manoeuvre that, and you need to manoeuvre it safely. And there's clear things in the rules about having method statements, and we need to see those method statements. We're not responsible for your safety. You are responsible for your safety and your team, your colleagues' safety. But we will observe, and if we don't like something, we'll stop you. We're not saying that what you're doing is okay, but we will observe and try and make sure that nothing nasty happens. But loading and unloading is something well worth practicing. The teams that do it best are the ones who've actually hired the van a few weeks earlier and taken it in and out many times, so they actually know exactly who's doing what and how it works to get it in the van and to get it out together. It's important, sounds trivial, but please do. Richard's talked about some of the hazards. There are other hazards. Things get hot. Don't automatically assume you can touch something. It might be really hot. We have had a finger burn. We don't really want anything more dramatic than that. Anything else I ought to have said?
I don't think so. We'll be time for questions.
Yeah, time for questions later. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Bridget. Okay, excellent. So then, much announced. We've got Tim Fairbrother here. You will probably have seen his name because it's at the bottom of all the pages of the rules. Tim is the author of the rules, Tim and his team, and he's going to quickly run you through them, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Morning all. Before I start, I've printed out some maps which indicate the locations of the various points around the circuit. So I don't know how many teams have we got here. I might just hand some of these out. Do I have enough?
Yeah, we were pulled on here.
There you go. Good. Okay, so the rules document, as I'm sure you've all perused already, comprises 3 parts. The first part is some general rules about how the competitions run. That's section A. Section B is an overview of the competition and the challenges. And then section C has the rules for each of the respective challenges and how they are run. So there are 12 challenges in total. There's a potential of scoring in excess of 2,000 points. How how many points you actually score will very much determine on your design and the success of your locos during the weekend. So there are 8 track-based challenges, which I'll go through in a minute, and four presentation challenges, which are submitted in advance of the competition weekend, and the timescales for those are defined in the rules at the end of section A. So a lot of those documents and other presentation submissions, be aware that they need to be submitted in advance of the competition weekend, some up to a month or 4 weeks in advance of the competition weekend. I'll focus on the track-based challenges, given that we're here on site today. So, as I said, there are 8 of those. There are 5 which are called dynamic challenges, which you compete on. As Bridget said, you'll get 3 runs around the circuit. The first is the dynamic scrutineering, the second is your trial run, and then on the third day is the competition run. On that run round the circuit, you'll get the opportunity to compete in those 5 dynamic challenges. So I'll just run through those in a bit of detail, and this is where the map may come in helpful. So as you can see on the map, we're in the station area, which is around the top left of the map, where there are 3 red blocks, which are the 3 buildings here. So the smallest block, the right of the 3, is this station complex here, and you can see the track layout hit there. So this will become a lot more familiar as we go round when we go out on the train shortly. But it goes round the loop, down a bank, following round the green of the woods. The next bend, that's a dotted line, is through a tunnel, and then continues down to towards point I. But ignore points G, H and I for a minute. We continue down to point A, which is where the auto stop challenge commences. So the objective of the auto stop challenge, as I'm sure you're aware, is to have a system on your loco that when you pass the trigger point at point A, you're able to, your loco, without any driver intervention, is able to stop as accurately as possible at point B. And then, according to the rules, you'll be assessed and scored dependent on how accurately or how close to point B you stop. So when we go out on the track, we'll stop around the vicinity of those points. So you can see they're not marked today, but on the challenge weekend they will be marked with marker posts. But you can see roughly where these challenges will take place. So the auto stop challenge uses points A, B, and C. If you overshoot C, then that invalidates your stop. The second challenge is the ride comfort challenge, and this measures the comfort of your loco. In the real railway, as you may be aware, if you travelled on trains, some are more comfortable than others, some you get rocked about more. So it's a critical thing that we assess the comfort of your train. So this takes place between point D and then all the way round the large loop on the right of this map, round to point E. And that's a distance of approximately 1,200 metres, and it'll take about I think it's 6 minutes defined in the rules for that challenge. There is a set
penalty if you take longer.
Yeah, there is a penalty if you take longer, because obviously if you go slower, then the dynamics of your vehicle will give a more gentle ride. So we do ensure that you go round that within the time limit. From point E, it's worth noting that for that challenge we'll put some equipment on your loco. Bear in mind, in the specification it requires you to have a ferrous plate, i.e. magnetic. We have had a number of instances where the plate is not magnetic, because the accelerometer that we mount has got a magnetic base. So please ensure that you have a ferrous plate which we can securely mount the accelerometer on, and that needs to be accessible so that we can mount it and then dismount it at the end of the challenge, ideally without removing any covers. Certainly no covers with any fasteners that require tooling. If you've got a lid on your loco that can just quickly lift off, that's fine, but we don't need to be using spanners, screwdrivers, torque wrenches or anything of that nature. It needs to be very accessible so we can quickly get it on and quickly get it off at the end of the challenge. The next challenge is the energy recovery challenge. So from the end of ride comfort at point E, you're required to propel yourself from and accelerate again and then brake, but the braking towards point F is recovering energy during the braking phase into your energy storage system. You're required, if possible, to stop before point F, and then the distance that you're able to then move on your on your recovered energy only is measured to assess your energy recovery. If you pass point F, then the distance that you pass point F will be deducted from the distance that you move under your recovered energy. So it's critical that you stop before point F if possible. The idea of this is that you're stopping in a station, so you're recovering energy as you slow down to stop in a station, and then you can use that recovered energy to accelerate again, and that's why we define that point F. In real life, you'd need to stop in the platform so that passengers can board and alight. It would be pointless if you couldn't accurately stop your train. From the energy recovery challenge, we go round to join the route back up towards the station where we are now, and this is where points G, H and I come in. So these are used for the traction and the noise challenge. These are run concurrently. The idea being that for the traction challenge, you're wanting to be effectively on full power to accelerate. This section is coming back up a bank, so there's an uphill gradient which makes the traction challenge slightly harder for you. But as you accelerate up, we also take a noise measurement, and then we time you on the distance between H and I for the time that it takes you to get. So from a standing start, how quickly can you pass between those two markers? That's all of the dynamic challenges. So after you've passed point I, completed the traction and noise challenges, then you can continue back round the loop, and then, as we'll do today, go into the head shunt into the woods, and then reverse back out into the station complex here. As well as the dynamic challenges, there are also some static challenges which will take place here in the station area. So the sixth challenge to note, as I think Bridget noted, is the reliability challenge, and that takes place across the weekend. And for this challenge, you'll start with 200 points, and then for any infringement or unreliability that you have, according to the scoring in that, which includes failure to start on time. Bridget was talking about it's critical that you're ready to start at your allocated time. If you miss that time, then you will incur a reliability penalty. If you have a breakdown or a late back or require external assistance, you will also be penalised on your reliability. So the way that challenge is scored, and that is across the whole weekend on each of the 3 runs. So the dynamic scrutineering run on the first day, the trial practice run on the second day, and the competition run on the third day. they all count towards your reliability. And then the two static challenges, the maintainability challenge, and this is the one that these two are the ones that require the method statement and risk assessments. The maintainability challenge, the requirement is to remove and refit a powered wheel set on your loco, and that is timed according to the rules, so that would be done somewhere in the station complex here. We normally do it in this area, somewhere around here. And then a new challenge for 2022 is the refueling challenge, where again we use a time concept for you to either refuel or replace your energy storage assets on the loco. The idea being that should be an efficient process. It doesn't take an unacceptably long time to refuel or recharge your locomotive. So again, according to the rules, we will time how long it takes you to do that. So hopefully that's a helpful summary of the rules. Hopefully the map will help, and I can explain a bit more about exactly where the challenges take place and where the different points are as we go around on the train in a short while. Any questions now, or
can we do them at the end?
Do it at the end.
Right, Tim.
Yeah.
Right, okay, thank you very much, Tim. I'm sorry it's so cold. Feel free to jog on the spot. We've just got a couple more things to talk about. And the first one is Malcolm, who I introduced before. He's the deputy head judge. He's going to talk to you about the judging. Malcolm's somebody that you definitely need to be very nice to. Malcolm, do I need to film you, or is it set
No,
up?
it's all right. I just get myself in the right place. Hello, everybody. Just a few points about some of the non-track challenges. I think it's worth giving you some tips from experience of judging some of these, particularly the design challenge. We get a whole variety of design challenge reports. The rules clearly outline how long they can be, and experience is that if you actually write a long report, you generally get more information in it, and we can give you more points. So make sure you use the space that's allowed. Use the compliance matrix that is shown on the website, because that gives you an opportunity to identify clause by clause how you have complied with the specification. It helps you when you're designing the loco, and it helps you to check that actually you built it right. And those who've done good compliance matrices usually get good marks in their design challenge. The other thing is diagrams. If you put in a diagram, don't just say the electrical schematic is in diagram X. It might need a bit of explanation. Similarly, if you've written a complex paragraph or two about how something works, it's worth illustrating it with a diagram. Believe it or not, that doesn't always happen. Okay, next one is the innovation challenge. Just to remind you, the rules say that you have to write a paper in institution paper style about your innovation, and the innovation has to be about something that's on the loco. It's not about some random innovation that you might think is a good thing. It has to be something that's fitted to the loco. Sometimes things go wrong, and perhaps it doesn't make it. So if you have managed to write about an innovation that isn't on the loco, you better have a good excuse. Next is the business case challenge. That's going to be virtual again this year. So please make sure that you have your slide pack and you've thought about how you're going to arrange your presenters and your slide packs when you do the presentation on Teams or Zoom. We don't know yet which medium we'll use. There are all sorts of different options I know in Teams to how you can put the speaker in front of the slides if you wish to do that. So you need to think about that in advance. And finally, the poster challenge. We will mark it here on site, and it's something that we know from experience that the spectators really enjoy because they get to learn about how the locos work, which was always an issue before we introduced the poster challenge. And the final thing about the track challenges is the energy storage one, where we've had a few problems over the years where there's not been a complete understanding between the teams and the riding judge, the person who'll be on your train, about how the instrumentation indicates that you have used solely the energy recouped during your braking run in order to accelerate the locomotive afterwards. So make sure that you go through that very carefully with your riding judge and actually make sure it works. One year we had a locomotive sitting there stationary after it had done its engine recovery, and the voltage in the supercapacitor changed, and that caused the riding judge to be uncertain of the provenance of the instrumentation, and that team got disqualified from that particular challenge. I hasten to add, we're not going to try and catch you out. We want you all to succeed. We want to be fair judges. We don't want to be the Craig Revel Horwoods of the Railway Challenge. We want to be more like the Shirley Ballases, to make sure that you all get a good crack at the whip. So thank you, that's my lot, and I'll shut up now.
Not certainly all watch Strictly, but anyway. Okay, so
I can't
thank you very
believe
much,
that for a
Malcolm.
minute.
Lucy, did you want to say anything from the IMechE point of view?
I'll keep it brief.
Good,
though.
thank you, Lucy.
Freezing.
Cheers a bit.
Hi everyone. Right, so yeah, I'm Lucy Killington. My team's here today. I'm from the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. So the IMechE is a member-led organisation for mechanical engineers, and as participants in the Railway Challenge, you're eligible to have free student affiliate membership, and we'd like you all to have that as part of your entry. So there are benefits to being a member of the institution. It starts you on your pathway to professional registration, which is the biggest one, but obviously you can hear about career opportunities, development opportunities, events, networking opportunities, information on how to prepare for interviews, all stuff like that. So it really is worth doing. Please do that if you haven't done it already. You can sign up for free on our website. My role at the institution is to manage the event operations and competitions, and that's what my team does. The girls that are here today. We do have some experience of the student competitions in that we've all worked on Formula Student and also the Apprentice Automation Challenge before, but Railway Challenge is new to us, so this is brand new for us for this year. We're really excited to be part of it. Part of our role in the Railway Challenge is project management, so the coordination of the various stakeholders involved in the challenge, administrative support to the wonderful team that actually do all the work, commercial oversight for the competition, so financial planning, procurement, that kind of stuff, marketing and promotion, and event planning and operational delivery for our event in June as well. So when you email the Railway Challenge at imeche.org email, that's a direct line to us, mainly me. But do send any questions that you've got into that email address, and I'll disseminate any questions that I can't answer directly to the relevant people, as it's the most efficient way. And as Tim mentioned earlier, any questions that you send about the rules, we will put on the website as well in an FAQ style. So if you're really desperate for an answer, do always check there first, because it might be the quickest way for you to get an answer. We'll also communicate to you from that mailbox, so any important messages that need to go out. Do bear in mind that most of the time we'll only send that email to the main contact for your team. So just be aware that you will need to, whoever the team leader is, you will need to play a part in disseminating that information as required. Second to lastly, marketing and promotion that I mentioned that we have some ownership of. We're really keen to help you promote your teams, whether that's to get new sponsors or to let sponsors know that you've got the reach of the institution behind you. So if you'd like to share your story, if you've got any interesting anecdotes that you'd like to share, do get in touch with us and we can help put that story out there for everybody. The very last thing I'm going to mention is, if you're not already signed up to the Welcome Workshop, which is taking place tomorrow between 12 and 2, please do so. I did send everybody an email out with the Teams link for that, but if you haven't signed up already and you need more information, come speak to me. That's all.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Lucy.